Today, we're going to do a little sight reading practice on guitar. Now, this is a very scary topic for many guitarists, myself included. To practice our sight reading, we'll be watching a video from 8-bit music theory called Nonfunctional Harmony in Chrono Trigger, which is a video game. Along with the sight reading practice, we'll be looking to glean and learn some sounds from great composers, and then try to adapt them to guitar. So I'm going to put on my cans of power here, and we're going to see if we can steal some great sounds. Here we go.
A younger, less world-weary 8-bit music theory would often...
Okay, right there we've got some notation to read. That's an F minor to a C major over E. Great sound.
often spend his time transcribing video game tracks and analyzing the harmony. Ah, a minor 4 to 1. That's an example of primary mode mixture. What?
I call it the borrowed 4, but primary mode mixture is what 8-bit's calling it.
A great cadence, he'd say. Once in a while, he'd come across a progression that seemed rather strange.
Whoa. Look at that. Now I'm just going to read the chord symbols on this one. Let's see. We got A minor 9, C minor 9 to E flat minor 7. That's pretty cool.
Ah, yes! An A minor to C minor to E flat minor. That's... well, that's, what is that? Try as he might, our young, nerdy friend could not for the life of him figure out what these progressions were supposed to be. Where are all the dominants? He'd cry. Where is this going? What key are we even in? Some progressions would drive him to tears every single night. How does this even function? That's the thing. It doesn't. Or it didn't, but it still does. Look, today I want to talk about non-functional harmony. And the perfect game soundtrack to use as an example is from one of the best video games of all time, Chrono Trigger for the Super Nintendo.
Now, this is an ancient game. Does anybody know this game? If you ever played this, put it down in the comments below.
So, what is non-functional harmony? Well, it's when a chord progression doesn't follow the laws of functional harmony.
Oh man, look at that mess.
So, what is functional harmony? The term functional harmony describes music that exists in a key and has chords that have specific functions.
Key of D right there is what we're seeing.
Look,
Two
a
sharps.
chord's function describes where that chord feels like it wants to go next. Generally speaking, chords fall into three main groups. Either they feel totally stable and don't want to move anywhere, they feel unstable and want to move to another chord, or they set up an unstable chord, neither feeling particularly tense or particularly resolved. When you talk about tonic, dominant, and predominant chords, you're referring to the chord's function. Functional harmony generally keeps going through the cycle of setting up tension, creating tension, and releasing that tension. Now, within this broad system, there's basically an unlimited amount
So that'd be one way to do that. You know, you predominant or subdominant, 4, 5 is a dominant, and then the 1. I'll make it a minor. Or it could be a major. Resolution.
room for experimentation, but that's what functional harmony actually entails. Any music that doesn't fit into the system of tension and resolution can be considered non-functional. Here, for example, let's look at Chrono Trigger's sequence.
That's a good way to put it. Tension and resolution. That's your job as a composer, to create that dynamic rise and fall.
Secret of the Forest. The majority of the song happens over this 2-chord vamp, G flat major 13 sharp 11 to F minor 9.
Play the bass line here.
At first glance, this seems functional because
Sometimes playing the bass line, I think, gives you a good perspective on the piece. Now the chords, G flat, major 13. I'm just gonna, come up with some of my own voicings here, because some of these, like when you play things on piano to guitar, when you adapt that, sometimes it just doesn't work out quite right. So then there's the F minor 9. So we can do it that way too. Okay.
As G flat and F minor are both found in the key of D flat major, being the...
Okay, now this screen here is a terrifying key for guitar players. So you have D flat major, E flat minor, F minor, G flat major, A flat major, B flat minor, and then C diminished. This style of voicing I'm using is very pianistic, and it's awkward on guitar because you're stretching this direction. So it is what it is.
4 and 3 chords respectively. The melody over the G flat major even emphasizes the sharp 11th scale degree, giving us a Lydian sound that just screams 4 chord.
Yeah,
over
that
the F
C
minor
note.
chord, however, the 9th G natural is not found in the key of D flat, and the...
There's a lot going on in this guy's videos, but it's fun to just see if you can grab a few ideas. Like, look at the middle line there. What is that? So you have B flat, E flat, F, and B flat. So that's like a little repeating arpeggio. And then the next one on the second system there, what is that one? C, E flat, G, A flat. Right there, I mean, you could like write a little song out of that.
This extension is inescapable. It's in every beat of the accompaniment, and the melody is completely focused on it.
Just
so what?
Brilliant composition to have that textural layer, the melody,
key, so what makes this song
and then the
different?
bass line.
Well, here's where we get a little bit more abstract. The chords don't lead us from one place to the next. The G flat chord doesn't push to resolve down to the F minor, and the F minor doesn't pull back up towards the G flat, but together they create this impressionistic color that you can just immerse yourself. Impressionism,
guys like Ravel and Debussy, composers from the last century. Oh man, I love that stuff. And it's a perfect example of non-functional harmony. You know, it's just a vibe. It's just a vibe is what it is.
They don't act like chords so much as two contrasting scales, with almost every note in each scale appearing in the chord's extensions, and the contrasting G-flat-G natural relationship deliberately pushed
scales. Those are scary scales right there.
Neither chord feels entirely resolved to, and this creates an ethereal, floaty feeling which is perfect for setting the atmosphere of an ancient forest.
Yeah.
Here's another example, a strange happening. Again, we get a 2-chord vamp, this time alternating between D minor 7
the bass
and
line
E
here
flat
again.
minor 6.
All right, hold on a minute. What do we got here? So look at the chord symbols there. D minor 9, here's a voicing for that, and then A flat minor 6. That's pretty evil and delicious. You could write like some evil bossa nova jazz with that or something.
This time alternating between D minor 7 and A flat minor 6. Notice how the number of contrasting notes between the two chords directly affects how creepy the progression
feels. And there's
feels.
one note in common there too, with the F. See that? Common tones are so important to get away with this kind of stuff.
Notes between the two chords directly affects how creepy the progression feels. Where Secret of the Forest's one-note contrast gave the music a floaty, mystical feeling, a Strange Happenings 3-note contrast feels downright unsettling. The tritone relationship between
Oh my God, he's hitting us with so much stuff here. A-flat melodic minor scale. Can you play that? And the D minor scale, that's a little less intimidating. Saddest of all keys. So sad.
Note contrast feels downright unsettling. The tritone relationship between the two chords' roots doesn't hurt this vibe either. You'll find a lot of non-functional chord progressions centered around only two chords. This is partially because two chords is enough to create a variety of different atmospheres.
Okay. Look at it. I totally agree with him, by the way. That's why I have all my modal primary chords. It's just 2 chords each. That's a sound. It's 2 chords. So you got C for outer space and F sharp. I love that. It comes from the tritone scale. Disco Party. What is this? Yeah, that sounds very disco. Evil is A minor to F minor. Let's see. trying in some different inversions. That's like chromatic mediance. And then the Batman sound, D minor to D flat. That's really cool. Oh, Danny Elfman, I think is what he's referencing there, the film composer Danny Elfman.
Spheres, and partially because throwing a lot of different chords at the listener with no discernible function to guide them through can make it hard to follow and frustrating to listen to. This is why jazz fusion will never be mainstream again. But any two chords, no matter how out there they sound together, can become normalized to anybody, no matter how musically uneducated, with enough repetition. That's not to say you won't find any complete onslaught.
What does Adam Neely say? Repetition legitimizes.
Lots of non-functional harmony in this soundtrack. Yasunori Mitsuda, the composer for Chrono Trigger, loves to use parallel minor seventh chords to create dissonance, like in Boss Battle Theme 2.
Here we go.
At first, it seems a little all over the place, but having the chords follow a very clear descent by semitone pattern helps anchor the listener.
You wouldn't think something like that would work, but it's cool AF.
A little bit. This descending minor chord idea is actually used quite a bit throughout the soundtrack, like in Undersea Palace's B section. It's still a non-functional progression.
All right, hold on a minute. Okay, so this is cool. I like how he has these little arpeggio repeating figures. What is this? No. And then it just goes down in half steps. Yeah, that's cool.
It's still a non-functional progression, of course.
Oh man, there's so much to read here. I'm losing it. Just trying to get, a little bit of it. It just makes you better, right? These minor 11 chords, those are interesting. That's just, a guitar voicing there. A lot of parallel movement.
It's still a non-functional progression, of course. Try and think of what chord could come next after either of these sections.
Now, at this point, your brain is probably about ready to explode. Hang in there. We're over halfway, roughly.
That would sound resolved. In functional harmony, this is usually very easy to do. Even if a song never actually lets us hear the tonic, it's almost always easy enough to hear in our mind what the tonic would be. In non-functional harmony, this isn't really the case. Notice also the way that the minor chords jump up by minor thirds in the first bar. This is another very common chordal relationship kind of in the Chrono Trigger soundtrack. For example, check out the B section to Black Omen. But the really impressive thing about this soundtrack is the way Mitsuda mixes the functional with the non-functional. The game's title track is the perfect example of this. Take a look at this opening progression. If you take a bird's eye view of the harmony, it's easy enough to dismiss that minor 6 chord. It's weird, sure, but it's
just kind of like, where are we going? There's no destination, and I love it.
It's just chromatically approaching the flat 6-5 cadence, which is very normal, even if the 5 chord is usually a dominant. When listening to it though, these chords move very slowly, and if you don't know where the piece is going to end up, the first 2 chords will definitely disorient you. It's such a genius composition. We get this bold, impressionistic color with the A minor to F sharp minor, then the chromatic move down to F disorients us even further before the E minor sets our feet back on the ground again. With the E minor moving to the A minor for the A section, we're more aware of what's going on, and we're clearly in the key of A minor. Now, when we hear that F sharp minor, we'll know to expect a descent down to F next. So what does Mitsuda do? He repeats the A minor F sharp minor move, playing with our expectations.
Oh man, okay, hold on. What is this? I'm trying to play the bass line here. Dun, 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 dun.
A minor F sharp minor move, playing with our expectations.
Song position line is like a little off maybe with the audio, huh? Bum, 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 bum. So it'd be like... Yeah, emphasizing that A minor 7, F sharp minor 7. Very cool.
Playing with our expectations. With the listener's expectations is one of the key components of writing functional harmony.
Really simple bass line if you look at it, right? But there's a lot of other things going on, so it's perfect. It's just perfect.
Music's so fun to listen to, but in isolation, an A minor to F sharp minor to A minor would not be considered functional in any sense. So
yeah, and it doesn't sound as good if you just play those chords. But Yasunori Mitsuda is really making music out of it with connecting melodic lines and the bass line and everything. It's incredible.
The F sharp minor to A minor would not be considered functional in any sense. So Mitsuda is creating harmony that functions but out of non-functional parts. Another great example of this is in the B section to Wings That Cross Time. Again, from a bird's eye view, it looks like an easy write-off as a chromatic
looks
approach
terrifying.
to a normal cadence, but the amount of time we sit on each chord and the deliberate accenting of the cross relations between our F minor and B Lydian scales definitely gives this progression a touch of non-functional color. Compare and contrast this move to some of our previous examples. Like A Strange Happening, these two chords are a tritone apart, which sounds a little jarring. But the mere two-note contrast between these two chords, or rather the scales that these chords are based on, makes the transition smoother, more like what we saw in Secret of the Forest. A lot of the time in progressions like these, the melody will specifically target common tones found between the two chords to even out the sound.
Common tones,
This is where
ding, ding,
pentatonic
ding.
scales can
I
come
love
in
this topic.
extremely useful, as they're already a powerful melodic tool in one key, but the limited number of notes allows one to fit into multiple contrasting keys or modes. Let's take our first example, Secret of the Forest. Compare the two chords. The first, as we've already discussed, is based off of the G-flat Lydian scale, and the second is based off of the F minor scale. Now, let's take out the notes that don't fit into both scales, in this case, the G-flat and G natural. Now, we never actually hear a D or D-flat over an F minor chord in this tune, so let's take that out too. What we're left with is an A-flat pentatonic scale.
Wow.
Writing a melody using the scale would likely result in a
Brilliant.
great singable melody that seamlessly smooths over the transition from one tonality to the next.
Yeah.
Except, Mitsuda deliberately doesn't do this. In fact, the majority of his melodies in the soundtrack emphasize the contrast between his non-functional chords by accenting the notes that don't fit nicely into both parent scales.
brain is so tired. Oh, evil.
This really makes the harmony stand out, and it definitely gives the soundtrack a unique flavor, but it can sound a little...
Even if you're not trying to play all the notes all the time, you know, just getting like the basic chords and being able to, you know, play along, make some music, that's worth something too, you know?
Makes the harmony stand out, and it definitely gives the soundtrack a unique flavor, but it can sound a little jarring at times, so it's not something I would always recommend doing. For Chrono Trigger though, it definitely works, and it's a powerful mood-setting tool. Well, that's the video. Thanks for watching.
We made it.
If you have any questions about non-functional harmony or anything else, please feel free to leave a comment below or tweet me at 8-Bit Music Theory. Special thanks to my gracious and patient patrons for supporting me in this endeavor, and thank you to everyone
Go sub to this guy's Patreon.
Subscribing to my videos so far. It's really
he deserves
amazing
it.
to read all the
Incredible content.
ridiculously nice comments you guys leave, and it really inspires me to make the best videos I can make, so I just wanted to say thanks. Anyway, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
So that's one way I like to practice sight reading on guitar. The cool thing is this doubles as a compositional exercise. I'm absorbing new sounds that I can use and apply later. I mean, what if you took that Batman chord progression on electric guitar and tried to finger tap it or sweep pick it or something? You might end up in some pretty interesting territory. If you're interested in becoming more than just a guitar player and you want to be a composer as well, you got to check out my Patreon page below. It's got all of my YouTube lessons, transcriptions, tabs, backing tracks, things like my neoclassical masterclass, my Intro to Music Theory course, scale and chord Bible. It's really geared towards helping guitarists develop into composers. I think there's an overemphasis on the internet in terms of technique when it comes to playing guitar. And yes, you do need technique to be able to realize your creative visions, but if you have nothing interesting to say, the technique really is useless. Good news is, all it costs you is your soul. Now I'm curious, did you guys like this style of video? It's a very different sort of thing than I normally do. I'm interested to hear your thoughts.